Hey there, Kipsters. We're looking at the 7th grade practice CST, and we're looking at questions 41 through 46. This is the last video for this test. Starting with question 41, which parallelogram is congruent to parallelogram J, K, L, and M? So if I refresh my memory about congruent, I know that they need to be the same shape. I know that they need to have the same side lengths, so the lengths need to be the same, and I know that they need to have the same angles. So if I'm looking at my options, first I'll check shape. If I look at all 4 options, they are all parallelograms, so shape doesn't help me. They're all parallelograms, which means they all have 2 sides that are parallel. Second, are the sides the same length? So JKLM has 2 sides of 5 and 2 sides of 4. And so if I'm looking at that, I can cross out B because it has 6 and 4. I can cross out C because it has 5 and 3. So I know it has to be either A or D, and I've checked the sides. Next is, does it have the same angles? I can see that JKLM has angles of 120 and 60. So if I look at A, one of the angles is 80 degrees. And I know that this parallelogram is not going to have an angle of 80 degrees because the angles here are going to be the same as the angles here. If it's 120 degrees here, this one's going to be 120 degrees. If it's 60 degrees here, that corner is going to be 60 degrees. And nowhere in here is 80 degrees. So it can't be A. And if I'm looking at D, the image doesn't look exactly the same because what it looks like happened was it was reflected. It looks like they took the image and flipped it over, which still works for it to be congruent. So this has the same sides, it's the same shape, it also has the same angles. I know if that's 120, that's going to be 60. That would be 120, and that would be 60. So D is the shape that is congruent to JKLM. Moving on, 42. The height of the pyramid is represented by which segment? We have not covered 3-dimensional geometry in this class, but I'm hoping that you could have figured this out just using what you know about the words here. So you have a pyramid. It's asking which one is the height. When I think of height, I think of how tall is something. So if I have U, V, T, or S, U, V, T, or S, which one is the height? Well, the one that shows how tall the pyramid is would be S, and the height is S. Moving on. Question 43. Which figure contains 2 congruent triangles? So that means the 2 triangles in that figure should be congruent. If I look at, and again I'll refresh my memory that congruent means that they are the same shape, so they should both be triangles. They have the same side lengths, so all the lengths are just the same side, are just as long, and they have the same angles. If I'm looking at all 4 options, every option has 2 triangles in it. There's 2 triangles here, 2 triangles here, 2 triangles here, 2 triangles here. So all of them are made by 2 triangles, so using shape doesn't help me exclude any options. Next is, do they have the same side lengths? If I look at A, this triangle has short legs, this triangle has long legs. So it can't be A because these 2 triangles aren't congruent. If I look at B, this one's a little more confusing. It looks like both triangles have 1 leg that's long, both triangles have 1 leg that's short. But if I look at this triangle on the top, I'll call that triangle A. This has a short third leg, but this triangle has a longer third leg. So these triangles aren't congruent because I can tell pretty clearly that that missing side that I don't see is not the same. So it can't be B. And now I have C or D left. If I look at both C and D, I can see that C and D both have a short leg and a long leg, a short leg and a long leg, and I'm trying to figure out which is made of two congruent triangles. So now I need to look at angles. If I look at these, I can tell pretty clearly that this triangle in D is an obtuse triangle because this angle is greater than 90 degrees. That's angle 1. But if I look at this triangle is an acute triangle because all the angles are less than 90 degrees. I'll call that angle 2. And so the angles of these two triangles is not the same. So the answer needs to be C. If I want to think about it a different way, if I look at this triangle has length of 1, length of 2, and length of 3. Whoops. This triangle has length of 1, length of 2, length of 3. So they're the same shape, they have the same sides. And if I wanted to fold this paper over, you can see that it looks like really that this was just rotated and flipped upside down. And so since it was a rotation, it is still congruent and the answer should be C. Moving on, 44. The scatter plot shows the average traffic volume and average vehicle speed on a certain freeway for 50 days in 1999. So this is the average traffic volume. That means how many cars are on the road. And this is the average vehicle speed. How fast are they going? So this is graphing the relationship between how many cars are on the road with how fast they're going. Before I look at the questions and the graph, I'm just making a connection and thinking, okay, when I think of a lot of cars on the road, I think that traffic tends to slow down. When there's a lot of cars on the road, that means there's a lot of traffic and means we go really slowly. That's like my drive home every day. So the question is, which statement best describes the relationship between traffic volume and vehicle speed shown on the scatter plot? So I have a couple options. First, as traffic volume increases, vehicle speed increases. And let's see if that's true. As traffic volume increases, I can see that the vehicle speed isn't going up. That would look like this. So it's definitely not increasing. Next, as traffic volume increases, vehicle speed decreases. So as traffic volume increases, the speed decreases. And that's exactly what's happening. As you go from left to right, traffic volume increasing, the speed goes down. And so that's this relationship here. As the traffic volume increases, the speed decreases. As you have more cars on the road, the speed of those cars slows down. It gets in a traffic jam. And so the correct answer is B. Next, we have 2 questions left for the CST. The table below shows the charges for renting and racing a go-kart. So 0 laps is $5, 1 lap is 8, 2 laps is 11, 3 is 14. It's asking which graph best represents the prices. I'm going to start by looking at this first information, which seems really important. 0 laps costs $5. That means just to get in the car costs $5. And that's really helpful because if I look at this, just that one piece of information helps me eliminate a lot of options. If I look at this, graph A, here I have the number of laps. If I have 0 laps, it should start at $5 right here. And what this graph is telling me is that 0 graphs costs $0, and that doesn't match with my table. So I can cross out A. If I go to graph C, again, this is saying that 0 laps cost $0, and that doesn't match with my table. Because I know 0 laps should cost about $5. It should start up there. So I can cross out C. Next, going to option B. This is saying not that 0 laps cost $5. This is actually saying that 5 laps cost $0. So this graph has it backwards. And I know I can cross out B because 5 laps does not cost $0. 5 laps should cost about 20. Last graph, the only one remaining, number of laps here is 0 laps. If I take 0 laps, it should cost $5. And if I take 5 laps, like we said, it should cost $20. And so the graph has to be option D. Last question for this test. Which graph shows a line with a slope of 2? So the first thing I'm thinking to myself is slope is always rise over run. And I know that 2 is really going to be 2 over 1. I'm looking for a line with a slope of 2 over 1. Before I actually start calculating, I'm going to do a little bit of process elimination and say, if I look at all these with my left arm, there's only 2 that are going up that are positive. These two, options C and D, are going down. They're negative. So I can cross out, not C and D, but B and D. Both of these have negative slopes, which means they can't have a slope of positive 2. So my only two options are option A and C. So I'll find the slope of A and C. First, looking at A, I need to find some usable points, and I see one point on my y-axis at 0, 3, another point here at 2, 4, could also see another point at 4, 5, or at 6, 6. I'll just use the first 2 points I have from 0, 3 to 2, 4. I want to find the rise, which is 1, and the run, which is 2. So this graph, with a rise of 1 and a run of 2, this graph has a slope of 1/2. But I don't want a slope of 1/2, so it can't be A. So the only option left over has to be option C. But just to be sure, I'll calculate the slope using this usable point 0, 1 up to the point 1, 3. If I find the rise, 1, 2, there's a rise of 2. The run is 1. And so with a rise of 2 and a run of 1, this graph has a slope of 2 over 1, or a slope of 2. M equals 2. The answer should have been C.